Hi there, Mrs. Vara here with a video on solving real-world problems. This is going to be page 20 in your note packet. So please make sure you have your notes out and you are taking notes just like you would, excuse me, when we are in class. So word problems, sometimes you guys I know call them story problems, sometimes they're called application problems. So in these problems that we're going to look at, we are going to write the equation and then solve it to answer the question in the word problem. Over here are some steps to keep in mind. They're just strategies to help you be successful when you're solving word problems. So the acronym here is CUBES. And the C stands for Circle Key Numbers. So let's read this, and as we're reading, we will circle key numbers. So it says the total cost for a week at camp is $220. I'm going to circle that. You have $140. Circle that. You earn $16 for every item you sell in a fundraiser. How many items do you need to sell to pay for a week of camp? So it sounds like you need to pay for camp and you are doing a fundraiser and you're earning some money every time you sell an item. And the next thing that it directs us to do over here is underline the question. So this says, how many items do you need to sell to pay for a week of camp? So that's the question. How many items do you need to sell to pay for a week of camp? So I would underline that. Notice it has the question mark at the end. That's kind of a clue that that is the question that you're answering. Box keywords. So I'm going to go through this and I'm going to help you identify some keywords. The total cost, total, and I'm going to box in cost also. That is definitely a key word. So the total, oftentimes, total will have an equal sign next to it because the total cost. Usually when you write an equation, you're equal to a total. So the total cost for a week of camp is $220. You have, so this is how much money. I'm going to box that. That seems important. Right now you have 140. So that's not enough. You need 220. But you earn $16 for every item you sell in the fundraiser. Okay, and then the question is, how many items do you need to sell to pay for a week of camp? Now, it says eliminate and evaluate. I'm going to actually say our next step here will be to define our variable. So what are we trying to find? That is what we're going to call X. So in this case, I'm going to say X, and put a little arrow, is the number of items you need to sell. I'm just going to put to sell. So X is the number of items we need to sell. How many items do you need to sell? That is our unknown. Your question will be your variable. I'm going to call it X. You can call it whatever you want, but I know most of the time you're used to X. All right, now we have to write an equation to evaluate this situation. So let's think. We know we need a total of $220. So this is what we need, $220. Over here, on the other side of the equation is going to be everything we have. So I'm just going to say what I have plus what I can earn. So there's two ways I can pay this $220. What I have is 140. And what I can earn is $16 for every item I sell. So if I sell one item, I get $16. If I sell two items, I get $32. What I'm doing every time is I'm multiplying 16 times the number of items to sell. Another way to word this is $16 per item, and per means to multiply. For every, I'm going to just have you add this in your notes, that's also helpful. For every means to multiply. $16 for every item. Items are represented by X. $16 for every item is 16 times X. So what I have is 140. What I can earn is $16 for every item. And then this is what I need. This is the total I need. So what I have plus what I earn needs to equal the 220. That's how much I need. Now we're going to solve this. So eliminate and evaluate is really part of the solving. And then we can also check our answer. I don't know if we'll have time to do that in this video, but let's solve this. I'm going to do the solving work right here. So this is the equation I'm solving. 140 plus 16x equals 220. Okay, draw your line, just like when we're solving an equation. We have no parentheses, so no distributive property. If I cover up and combine, I don't have any like terms over there. On the left side of the equal sign, I have a constant and a variable, so no like terms there. I only have one variable, so you can go ahead and circle that. So 140 plus 16x. Remember, if you have plus or minus, that's what you want to undo first. So this 140 is added to my variable, so I want to add the opposite. The opposite of 140 is negative 140. So I want to minus 140 from both sides. If you need to pause the video, we can do that if you need it paused to catch up with your note taking. So minus 140 from both sides, so that's my step. Now I'm going to write my new equation. Positive 140 and negative 140 make a 0. So on the left side of the equal sign, I have 16x. 220 minus 140 is 80. So now I have 16x equals 80. 16x, that is the same as 16 multiplied by x. To get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 16. 16 divided by 16 is 1x, so that's 1x equals, other side of the equal sign is 80 divided by 16, that is 5. Okay, so my solution is x equals 5. But I want to remind you, and actually I'm going to have you put this in your notes, put a star by it. A story problem requires a story answer. Story problem requires a story answer. So what I mean by that is we need to include units. Always, always, always. So our solution is x equals 5. 5 what? $5 or 5 items? Well, right up here we said x is the number of items sold. So this is why defining your variable is very important. If you have your variable defined, you know what your units are. We're just going to add the word items after it. So we need to put some units on our solution. In this case, x represents items, so if x equals 5, it's 5 items. So we need to sell 5 items in order to be able to go to camp. I'm actually going to check this using my calculator, and I'll show you. I think that shows up okay under the camera. So this was my equation. I'm going to substitute a 5 in here. So I'm going to put into my calculator 140 plus 16, and instead of the x, I'm going to put parenthesis 5 close parenthesis, because parentheses mean multiply. If I solve this correctly, when I hit enter, I should get 220, and I do. So that is how I checked my answer, and I know I solved it exactly right, because x equals 5. Okay, this one down here says you try, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to do one more in this video, and then I'm going to let you practice the rest. I am also going to see if I turn on the light here, if this helps the video a little bit. Maybe a little. Okay, so we're going to look at example 2 now. I might do a little less writing on this one. A bill to landscape your yard is $720. The material cost $375, and the labor is $34.50. This per is an important or a key word. So that's that box keywords. And then I'm going to remind myself that per means to multiply. Write and solve an equation to find the number of hours spent landscaping your yard. So what am I finding? The number of hours spent landscaping my yard. So I'm underlining my question. So what don't I know? I don't know the hours. So I'm actually going to define my variable in this problem using an H. H for hours. And this represents hours spent landscaping. You know, landscaping is like putting in flowers, cutting the grass, making the yard look pretty. So you're trying to figure out how many hours is it going to take to landscape my yard. Now they told me the bill is $720. That sounds like a total. So the total, I don't have a lot of room here, I'll squeeze it in. The total it cost to landscape my yard is $720. There's two things that are included in that bill. Material, so I'm going to put material, plus labor. And that's pretty common when you're paying someone to do some work for you. They charge you for the materials, so this would be like the plants and the grass seed and the machinery that they use to work on your yard. And the labor is what they pay the workers. So the materials is $375 plus the labor is $34.50. You don't have a lot of room here. Make sure you're writing small. Per hour. So per hour means multiply by the hours, which we defined hours as H. So my equation here is 375 plus 34.50 times H equals 720. So I'm just going to pause for a minute, make sure you have that very nicely in your notes. And then I am actually going to recommend that you start solving this equation right here on the paper. As you can see, I'm going over into the next box a little bit. That's okay. And if you're not sure what to do, kind of look up at the video and see what I'm doing, or better yet, if you want to pause the video and then come back and check it, that would also be good. So I am circling my H, 375 plus, so I'm going to minus 375 from both sides first. So that's going to get me a 0. On the left, I'm going to have 3450 H equals, I'll go to my calculator, I'm going to do 720 minus 375, and I get 345. So now I have 3450 H equals 345. I'm going to circle my H. These two values are multiplied because it was 3450 per hour. So we're going to divide both sides by 3450. 3450 divided by 3450 is H all by itself. That's what we wanted. 345, still in my calculator. I didn't clear it. Sometimes not clearing your calculator helps. Divided by 3450 equals 10, which you might have figured that out without even putting that in your calculator. So H equals 10, but story problem requires a story answer. What is H again? Well, if you forgot, just go right up here. You wrote it right here. H is hours. So 10 hours. 10 hours of labor plus $375 will pay for the whole job of $720. So what I would like you to do now is to do example 3. I'm going to put the answer here. This is just for you to check your work. So it is 7 tickets. So I want you to solve it on your own. This is how you will know if you got it right. After you are done solving this one, I would like you to go to, and I'll write this in a minute, I just have to check the page number. I would like you to go to page 23 and 24 and do 17 through 19. So after this, you're going to go to page 23 and 24 and do problems 17, 18, and 19. There we go. Okay, those are your practice word problems. That's it. Thank you.